Remember YouTube 10 years ago? It was the first major site that I regularly visited after finally being given free reign on the internet. My experience was probably quite different from most at that point. I didn't really visit the site to watch any particular YouTuber. Instead, I used it like a shared media library for music, movies, and TV shows. My YouTube catalog back then included things like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Bewitched, Gem and the Holograms, Strawberry Shortcake, straight-to-video Disney films, Don Bluth movies, and a good chunk of early 2000s shoujo anime. I discovered a lot of movies and shows on YouTube. It's how I discovered Winx Club and how I watched the rest of 4Kids' stuff. I didn't have access to cable, so YouTube filled that void for me. YouTube was also a major hotspot for movies you can't find anywhere else. This was before copyright holders saw YouTube as any sort of major threat, so it was pretty much a free-for-all. The stuff that I encountered in terms of really obscure content usually came in the form of lower-budget animated films, which brings us to the topic of today's video. One of the movies I discovered through YouTube over a decade ago was the animated adaptation of George MacDonald's The Princess and the Goblin. I believe it was my mom who introduced it to me, but without YouTube, I don't think I would have ever found it. It's that obscure, at least in the US. I thought I was the only person on planet Earth who had ever heard of it before. Its audience seems to be rather small, but very attached. That said, I still don't hear anyone mention it very often. I was feeling kind of nostalgic recently, so I decided to give the movie a rewatch for old time's sake. And without getting into it too much, it was rather eye-opening, to say the least. But in many ways, it was still a pleasant experience. I'll go ahead and share my thoughts with you all in just a moment. But first, hello, I'm Rosie Vision, and I like looking at entertainment through rose-tinted glasses, because we all deserve some magic in our lives. And what can be more magical than a movie where the power of song can chase away the night? Before I dive into the plot, I'll give you guys a quick background on how the film came to be. I discovered a lot of this for the first time while researching this video, and I found it rather interesting. The Princess and the Goblin is a 1991 Hungarian-Welsh animated film based on a novel written by George MacDonald in 1872. According to what I could find, it appears to be the very first Welsh animated feature-length film. It was originally released in Hungary, then was released in America a few years later. It was unsurprisingly obliterated by the monumental release that was The Lion King. Those are not easy shoes to fill. No animated film stood much of a chance, much less something with such a modest budget made in what was at the time uncharted waters. Which is really ironic considering I found reports that Froglips VA from The Princess and the Goblin was asked to audition for roles like Zazu and Timon. And it's especially sad because of the fact that that particular actor gave the best performance in the movie by a long shot. So as hard as it may be to believe, The Princess and the Goblin was not a financial success. It only made back a little over $2 million out of a $10 million budget. The movie kind of got swept under the rug, so much so that it's very difficult to find official releases for it. It's not officially licensed on streaming, and both DVDs and VHS tapes are rare to come by. Although it was bundled together with a bunch of animated copycat films a while back for some reason. Kind of depressing considering The Princess and the Goblin was far from a copycat film, and has historical importance to the world of animation. I remember seeing it at Walmart in the bargain bin, and I kind of regret not getting it considering how all the copies on the market right now are used. It's very easy to just not know that this movie ever existed in the first place. Yet despite all that, the film seems to have a decently dedicated following. But now that we know how The Princess and the Goblin came to be, what is it even about? The movie follows a free-spirited young princess named Irene. Irene has lived a very sheltered life and has no idea what it's like outside the castle walls. Her father, the king, has recently left to attend to some business affairs. One day, while she's outside playing, her cat Turnip runs off and gets into trouble. Irene rushes to catch him, leaving her nanny behind. While trying to catch Turnip, Irene discovers the outside world is a very dangerous place. As night falls, she becomes surrounded by a horde of horrible creatures. Irene, who has no real way of protecting herself, cowers alone in fear. But suddenly, from within the darkness, Irene hears something. A minor boy named Curdie saves her from the goblin creatures through the power of song. Yep, you heard right. As ridiculous as it sounds, this is not the first time I've encountered a piece of media where the villains are defeated through the power of singing. And as corny and unbelievable as it is, I still love the concept of it. But back to the movie. Goblins have two weaknesses in this universe: music and their soft feet. This is common knowledge for the people who live in Irene's kingdom, but everyone within the castle walls remains blissfully unaware of the existence of goblins. Irene returns to the castle safely, but no one believes she was actually attacked by goblins. They think she's just telling tall tales. She discovers a secret doorway in her room, which leads into a mysterious tower. It is there that Irene meets her great-great-grandmother, also named Irene. As you might imagine, Irene's grandmother is no longer living. She exists without a physical body, as a sort of magical being. Irene's grandmother warns her that she will soon be in great danger. She comforts Irene and gives her a gift: a ring. Attached to the ring is a ball of magic thread, which Irene's grandmother holds onto, so that Irene may find her way. Think breadcrumbs from Hansel and Gretel, but much more effective and stylish. Around that time, Curdie stumbles across the goblins while working in the mines. He overhears their scheme to flood the mines and take back the world above from what they refer to as the Sun People. According to them, they were pushed underground by the humans many years ago, so now they wish to seek revenge and take back what was rightfully theirs. The aforementioned Prince Froglip plans to marry Princess Irene in order to force their rule over the human world. Curdie tries to run back to warn everyone, but is caught by the goblins and locked up in a dungeon. Luckily for him, Irene follows the magic thread and finds Curdie trapped inside a collapsed stone cave. She's able to bring him back safe and sound, thanks to the power of her great-great-grandmother's gift. After reuniting, Curdie and Irene do their best to prepare everyone for what's to come, but their efforts prove to be in vain. The goblins successfully flood the castle, and Froglip abducts the young princess. But all hope is not lost. Curdie and Irene are able to work together along with everyone at the castle to fight back and save the world from the terrifying goblins, all through the power of one of my favorite original film songs. I have rather fond memories of this movie, so I'll go ahead and start things off by going through the good aspects. I feel like the reason why so many people latch on to this movie is because of the artistic style the movie takes on. There's very pretty imagery, some great character designs, and in general, everything just looks nice. Mostly anyways. I cannot even begin to explain how in love I was with the scenes Irene's grandmother had. They are so amazingly creative in terms of the art direction taken. There's some really cool ideas and transitions used for her scenes. And the way Irene's ring was animated made me want one of my own so badly as a kid. Speaking of which, Irene in general is just really cute. I love her design a lot. It's nothing too extravagant, but she looks great in pink and has a rather unique feminine style I can't find an easy comparison to. So long story short, the visuals are this movie's crowning jewel. That said, the animation itself while in motion is very, very rough. It doesn't flow well at all, and it feels very static at times. But the areas where the animators were able to put in 100% really shows. Probably the second best part of the movie, in my opinion at least, would be its original song, Spark Inside Us. I am so bummed that there isn't an official release. I love this song, even after over a decade. Luckily for us, there's an amazing cover I found that recreates the song in its entirety. I'll link it in the description, and add a card too. Please give it a listen, it's a really great song. It has such a hopeful and optimistic feel to it that makes me feel like I could accomplish anything, and conquer any fear just by hearing it, which is perfect for the role the song fits within the film's narrative. It's a song Curdie sings to fight back against the nasty goblins. And to top things off, the movie version is sung quite well. They didn't have Curdie's English voice actor sing it, but honestly, I couldn't tell at first. The singer they chose kills it and has a similar tone to the voice actor, so no real harm done at the end of the day. What I like about the song most, however, are the lyrics. I didn't really pay much attention to them when I was younger, but after reading through it all, I was impressed. It works perfectly alongside the movie and sounds like a great classic poem, or something of that nature. On their own, the lyrics probably sound kinda cliche and cheesy, as most lyrics do, but in the context of the movie, along with the inspiring sounds it has, it works beautifully. I'm so glad I rediscovered this song. It's genuinely one of my favorite original songs from the film, and it's a shame how not many people have gotten to hear it. But that's enough beating around the bush. I may have loved this movie to death as a child, but it has its fair share of problems. So let's start going through the bad now, shall we? The biggest issue I found while rewatching was just how short the movie feels, even though it has an 82-minute runtime. The pacing was pretty bad, guys. Rather than having a natural progression of events, things kind of just happened. Take for instance the scene where Irene tries to convince her father, the king, that they are under attack by an evil group of goblins. He obviously didn't believe in them before, but after hearing Irene's plea for help, which was pretty short by the way, he instantly believes her, no questions asked. Which in a way is kind of refreshing, considering the trope horror movies love to use where no one ever believes children when there's some sort of danger. But here it just felt weird. There was no evidence to back up Irene's claims, she was quite young, and we don't get to see his thought process at all. He just immediately accepts what she's telling him is true. What else would he believe in if said with enough conviction? Probably not a good idea to leave a kingdom in the hands of someone so easy to convince. Besides the poor pacing, I also found the audio side of things to be rather lackluster. I liked the musical score well enough, but there really wasn't much to it. It was super short and repetitive, which resulted in several scenes that were way more silent than necessary. It was uncomfortable watching scenes that obviously needed music. You just hear little sound effects here and there with no dialogue for long periods of time. It just felt unnatural. The English dub did not live up to my childhood memories either. Some VAs did better than others. I liked the performance Irene and her grandmother gave. They were fine. And then Froglip's voice actor put in way more effort than was necessary for a film of this caliber. But most of the time, the acting performances were distractingly bad. Curdy and Irene's father come to mind. This is obviously only an issue if we're talking about the English dub. I listened to snippets of the Hungarian version, and the difference in quality was astounding. Normally, I don't complain much about dialogue. It's kind of hard to mess up to the point that it's obvious, in my opinion, but it was seriously lacking in this case. There were many instances where a character would start voicing their thoughts. It was like hearing their internal monologue. Man, I'm hungry. I could really go for a tuna sandwich right now. Do we have mayo? I don't know. We definitely have bread. Let me go check. Guess not. Darn. Now what? It wasn't quite that bad, but to me it felt comparable, which is not good. No one wants to watch characters voice useless thoughts they could have explained through simple actions. Show, don't tell is a saying for a reason. I think if I were to summarize the main issue of the movie with one sentence, it would be a lack of urgency. The animation was really stiff, and the character's body language never felt right for dramatic scenes. And as I already mentioned earlier, the voice acting could not convince me to care about these characters. Add all those issues together along with scenes that rush by like a roadrunner on a sugar high, and you'll get a very poorly put together picture. I just harped on the movie a lot, even though it's one of my childhood favorites. So that begs the question, is it even good? Was it all just in our heads? Were we too dumb as kids to discover the truth? I'm probably not the best person to ask, since I tend to be overly lenient, but I'll do the best I can to be objective here. The simple answer. I think there was some genuine talent that went into it, but overall it wasn't as great as I remembered it. I will say the acting in the English dub is a big part of it. I imagine the original product is much easier to watch based on the clips I have seen. But that still doesn't solve the pacing issues and how things kind of just happen. Like a fever dream. I still love this movie because of the fond memories I have of it. and now I can really appreciate how monumental it was for the Welsh animation scene. I do think it's something worth being proud of, but it was a far cry from what I remembered the movie being. Guess you really do see the world differently when you're younger. But on the bright side, the movie introduced me to the original novel. It's been a while since I last read it, but my younger sister swears by it and says it's leagues above the movie, which is saying something since she doesn't read full novels like that very often. And really, it's not too hard to believe. The Princess and the Goblin is a piece of classical literature for a reason. It'd be really hard to measure an experimental low-budget movie up to something like that. So there's a good book recommendation if you need one. There's also a sequel titled The Princess and Curdie. I didn't like it as much as the first one. It's pretty pessimistic and gets rather disturbing in the second half, but hey, the more you know. And I think that's everything I wanted to cover about this movie. How many of you guys have seen it before? Do you like it? I'm curious to know since I don't hear many people talk about it. Not sure what the general consensus is, but I'm under the impression that it's a nostalgic cult classic for many. If by chance you haven't seen it before, feel free to give it a watch if you're interested. It's not on streaming or anything, but because of how unknown the movie is, it's still on YouTube, at least as of this recording. It may not be the greatest watch if you're not a kid like many of us were when seeing it for the first time, but I do at least stand by the quality of the scenes Irene's grandmother is in. So check it out if you have a moment. That'll about do it today. Thanks for watching, guys. Uploads have been kinda slow for me lately. I recorded a bunch of stuff, but I recently went back to school. So I'm kind of just getting into the rhythm of things and trying to find time to work on YouTube too. But I'm not going anywhere, so keep your eyes open for the next one. If you enjoyed the video, then please subscribe so you can join me for the journey to come. And if you'd like to support the channel, then check out my Patreon. Each patron gets a cute animated sticker I made, as well as access to other cool rewards like early video access, as well as access to videos that I had to scrap from YouTube. Before I sign off here, I'm going to thank my patrons real quick. A huge thank you to Toddy Fantasy. The support means a lot. I know that life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but as always, I hope that I'm able to send a little bit of positivity your way. I'll see you guys in the next one, and don't forget to keep a little magic in your life.